Hey everybody, it's Ted Bogert. Welcome back to the TED Show. I'm super excited to have these two talented creatives on. We have Gretchen Suarez-Pena. Look at Matthew go, nah. Matthew Fackler's here. Central Florida Vocal Arts is putting on or presenting Melina, did I say it right?
Yes.
A steampunk musical tragedy. You know, I love any kind of title like that, so I'm excited. I know it's going to be amazing. Gretchen is the playwright creative behind it, and Matthew is the performing artist creative involved. And so thanks to Teresa Smith-Levin, they are both on the show. Welcome, you two. How are you today?
Doing well. Thank you for having us.
I'm
Yeah,
excited
thanks for
to
having
have
us.
you.
Very excited.
I'm excited for this discussion about Melina. I know nothing, which is just normal Ted. It doesn't necessarily have to do with any topic. It's just the way it works. But before we take a deep dive into Melina and talk about it, because it's ongoing, it goes through May 8th. There are still tickets available. And in the post, you will see the link so that you too can get tickets for the last remaining performances. We love origin stories. So we'll start with Gretchen. Gretchen, tell us a little bit about you and then your relationship to Melina.
Yes, so I am a playwright. I've been writing plays since I was in high school. I am currently a lot older than high school.
You don't look older, Gretchen, at all.
Oh, well, thank you.
She's a couple of years out of high school. No big
No,
deal.
not at all. So I've been writing plays off and on for quite a long time. But the last 7 years or so, I've been basically writing plays, getting them produced at festivals, getting them winning some awards, and getting them produced by different theater companies. And so Melina was actually one of the very first plays that I wrote after I graduated from college. I am actually an engineer by profession, which is why I really like the steampunk aspect of things, but we'll dive into that later.
That's why when I tagged you on LinkedIn, I hope for the best. There was some engineering word in there, but I'm like, that's her picture. So that's gotta be her.
Yeah. So, I studied engineering in college, but I'm actually going back to school this fall to study dramatic writing at Carnegie Mellon. So to pursue my playwriting ventures. But yes, I've been writing plays for a really long time. I was also a performer in high school and college. But basically, I've been a playwright writing musicals and plays heavily for the last 7 years, but I've been doing it for like the past 20 years. So
Is it cathartic? I mean, that is like right and left brain. I have no brain, so I can't imagine having both sides functioning. That's amazing. I think that's.
Thank you.
I think anytime you can put thoughts and creativity to paper and actually bring a story alive or create a story is a beautiful, beautiful thing. And I'm going to ask you about Melina after Matthew tells us about him. Matthew, welcome.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, so my name's Matthew Fackler, and I've been in the Central Florida area for about 11 years now. Moved down here for college and kind of fell out of performing. I grew up performing, and then once I graduated from college doing computer animation stuff, I was like, wait, I like that whole performing thing. Why did I ever stop? And so I went back to school to UCF, got a vocal performance degree. And now I perform locally in the area doing musical theater, some opera stuff. And I found Central Florida Vocal Arts in, it would have been 2018, something like that, whenever I did Tale of Two Cities with them. And they've not been able to get rid of me yet.
Teresa's not said she's trying.
Fair enough.
Tell us about the Melina, because I just love the title. So, a musical steampunk tragedy. First of all, who is Melina? What is Melina? Gretchen, you are the playwright. I would love the audience to get some 411 on that.
So Melina was inspired by a couple of different things. So I actually sent Matthew the song Helena by Nickel Creek. I had listened to the song in 2006, and I had this vision of this man in like a top hat and like Victorian attire singing about this woman that wasn't all who she seemed to be. And I had kind of suffered this like traumatic heartbreak when I was a teenager that just kind of I couldn't get out of my head. It was just one of those things that really like burned me as a person and kind of shaped me as to who I am. So I started writing this one act in 2009, and I called it Melina, basically inspired by, you could say she's the villain or the anti-hero. She's the catalyst for everything happening. basically for the story happen. She's not the protagonist. She's kind of the catalyst. She's the trigger for things happening in this fantastical world. And then I'd always had this vision that I wanted it to be kind of this fantastical, unreal world. And in about 2011, I found steampunk, and I was like, oh, that's it. That's what I want it to be. And I'm an engineer, so I love, inventions and things that are the technology. So for those that don't know, steampunk is like anachronistic Victorian era. It's like H.G. Wells, Jules Verne. Like if that time period had never really ended, like how technology would kind of continue in that way. And so, you've got gadgets and steam engines and things like that. So over the years, I kind of just off and on was working on it. And then I put it away for a long time. And in 2016, I brought it back. And I started thinking about, this needs to be further. I've always wanted it to be a musical because I felt like it would be more fantastical that way because musicals are big. And it's very melodramatic. It's a love triangle with heartache and breakups and all that kind of stuff. So then in 2018, I started writing the songs, adding a second act to it that brings about like a next generation. Then kind of worked on it for the last couple of years. It got selected for the Atlanta Musical Theater Festival for 2020, but then COVID stopped all that. Then I had mutual friends that got me in touch with Teresa at Central Florida Vocal Arts. And she's like, I like this story. This is very much in vein with what we like to do here at Central Florida Vocal Arts. So they kind of, we teamed up and they kind of took the music I had created and kind of elevated and made some changes to it. So the performance that we have now is kind of this new version. It's funny because it's kind of also based around a time machine. Are you familiar with, actually it's the book, The Time Machine. That's also very steampunk-ish. So it's got a time traveling element to it a little bit, a little time experiment element to it, which makes it fun. But yeah, so it's a little bit of, I call it a steampunk telenovela on stage because it's very melodramatic, but it's that fantastical element that, you kind of like to get sucked into. So I write a lot of different kinds of pieces. This one's very self-indulgent, but it's kind of.
Let me ask you about that. Yeah. Was when you finished it, when you birthed it, because that's what creatives do, sing, write. Was it cathartic? Was it a cathartic moment when you were able to get it all out? Did it help with, not to get too deep, but did it help with that horrible, terrible, bad, awful breakup? Was it a good thing? Did it feel good? Did you feel better? Did you feel kind of like, all right, I can move on now?
Yes, actually, I would definitely say that in the last couple of years, kind of digging back into that story, I've definitely felt like I've grown up, because I think there's sometimes that you just hold on to things. I'm really bad about holding onto grudges. So yes, it was very cathartic. And then now seeing it on stage, I've seen how it's evolved. It's had like, one of the things I was gonna say, it's had like 15 different versions. It has had 15 different endings. Matthew's character, which I'm sure he'll talk about, is kind of a good guy gone bad. His ending to the story has changed like 10 different times. But the version that you see on stage is kind of a repercussion of all of that. So yeah, it's been very cathartic and it's been a very fun experience, and it's definitely was birthed from a personal place, but has grown into something bigger.
This is why I love to have creatives on, because I think when people can understand the emotion behind it, the inspiration behind it, then people get more in touch with it, and then they are more intrigued because then they have experienced something similar probably, and they can relate to it so much more. All right, Matthew. Thank you, Gretchen. Matthew, tell us about all sorts of things. Talk about Melina.
Yeah, so I'm also on the officer team over at Central Florida Vocal Arts. So the idea of Melina was kind of pitched to the group, and it from the get-go was like, we were all like, this is something that really lines up with what Central Florida Vocal Arts loves to do. And I personally was like, that seems really cool. Let's do it. And so kind of just even from the inception of Central Florida Vocal Arts doing it, I was like, I think I want to be in on that thing. Let me do that thing. And so I was on the team that kind of helped with whenever we were redoing a little bit of the music. And then whenever there was a table read in Orlando that I got to be part of, and I actually read for a different character. So that was kind of fun to be able to see the show from a couple of different lenses. But yeah, now I play Jacob. He's the kind of antagonist, kind of sad boy. He kind of gets pulled around and wrecks some people's lives while his gets wrecked in the meantime as well. And then has to deal with the consequences of that, which has been really, really fun to dig into the melodrama of it as well, just because, like Gretchen said, it's really a telenovela on stage. And so being able to not just be like sad and melodramatic and angry, it's like all of that heightened times 10 because it's telenovela.
So you perform, right? So it's a musical, everybody, which I think is in the title, Steampunk Musical Tragedy. Is it half singing, half performance? Give them a little bit of how it works. What are you doing during it? Obviously you're the protagonist, antagonist.
Kind of. A little bit of both, you know?
A little bit of both. He's definitely one of the leads. Yeah.
But it's honestly, it's probably like 50-50-ish. Like there's in between just about every scene, there is a song of some kind, whether it be a group number or a solo. There's a lot of dancing. You get to see a couple of tangos. You get to see a couple of group numbers. There's a lot of really heartfelt solos that kind of just happen with the introspection of the character on stage, belting their heart out to the audience. And then you get a lot of that melodramatic telenovela, just dialogue at each other as well.
I love it. All right. So I'm not going to put you on the spot. You don't have to. We talked about it before we went live. But do you want to give them any kind of idea of what what Jacob sounds like?
You can do it, Matthew.
Fine. Okay, got it.
I've never met a performer who turned me down on this, by the way. So I don't want you to be the first. No pressure.
No pressure.
Usually performers are like, oh, of course. What kind of ditty do you want? I have 900 of them.
Yeah.
He has a fantastic solo towards the end of Act 1. And I think he's probably going to want to sing.
Okay, so I'm just going to put you front and center now that we've made you literally front and center
for
a moment. But you can give us a little snippet because I think it's good for people to understand, to hear. It's one thing to talk about the passion. It's another thing to kind of see a teeny bit of it to get them intrigued. So if you don't mind, don't hate
absolutely
me later.
Not. All right. So I towards the end of Act 1, I'd say it's like the second to last thing in the end of Act 1. There's been a big sort of shift in Jacob's life that that everybody gets to witness. And so the very last song that he sings is like really introspective, but also like angry and hurt. And so I think it'll just be a little sneak preview of towards the end of it, just so that you get a little bit of that climax and I don't have to go through the whole thing.
Wonderful.
But yeah, okay. I'm not one to stay alone long. No, my name is one that's bold and strong. Forget I will, forget I must. The sirens gaze and song. Just a little sneak peek. A little bit. The little bit of a sneak peek.
So
in order to see the rest of it or get any context, you gotta come see the show.
Exactly. So speaking of coming to see the show, what's the best way for them to find tickets, to get their tickets? Is it centralfloridaVocalArts.org? Is that really the best way?
centralfloridaVocalArts.org, and there's a ticket link, I think, even on the first page. Is that right, Matthew?
Yeah, if you go to either centralfloridaVocalArts.org, there is a ticket link. You just got to scroll down a tiny bit. Or if you go to central-florida-vocal-arts.ticketleap.com, so just put a dash in between each of the words and then .ticketleap.com. That'll take you right to the Ticket Leap page where you can purchase tickets for our last 3 shows that happen this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
It's the last 3 shows.
Yes, and just a little thing. If you like to dress up, there's some people who like to cosplay in Orlando. This Friday, we're going to have a cosplay night that we're going to be giving out a special prize to the best dressed in steampunk.
Yes.
So bring out your corsets and top hats.
Yes.
Listen, they're not kidding. And the thing that, and I love that. And we have a ton, I've had cosplayers on here. Woo. I have a nice following of
Yeah.
people who love cosplay here. So don't challenge them because you never know what's going to show up.
Heck yeah.
But
Bring it.
my audience is always asking for what's going on in Orlando arts-wise, Ted. And here's a great way for you all to support local arts, local talent, local creatives. Everybody went through some crazy times in 2020, and we're all trying to come back in 2022. Live performances are back, thank God. And it's just such a great way for you to get out and to give back and to escape and enjoy and look at a local production of something that is fun and novella. I mean, I love a good drama novella.
Yeah.
Dramatic.
Come and escape for a little while.
Come and escape. So go to centralfloridavocalarts.org. The link for tickets is right there. Gretchen, Matthew, both a joy. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I appreciate it. Come back on anytime. You guys get out and support our creatives. centralfloridavocalarts.org. Go get your tickets. All right, guys, we'll see you soon. Thank you so much for being on the show.